So hello everyone, and welcome to Exploring Ideate Software Updates for Revit 2022 through 2025. My name is Richard Taylor, and I'm a technical evangelist here at Ideate Software Graytech Group. So the June 2024 release for Revit versions 2022 through 2025. And so what I mean by that is that, of course, we're aligning all 6 of our applications with Revit 2025, but we're also making updates for Revit 2022 through 2024. That means all the features that I'm talking about today will be available on Revit 2022, 23, 24, as well as 25. And of course, as always, if you're not familiar, we have versions that are going back further than that. It's just that those have not been updated with the latest releases. But if you're using Revit 2020 as an example, or 21, we certainly have applications that are available for those versions of Revit. Those will be on our archive page. And you see there in red, it says coming very soon. We're within probably a couple days here of releasing our solutions. If you are an Ideate Software customer, you will be receiving an email basically telling you that you need to update your Ideate Software solutions. So we send that out to both the contract holders as well as customers that are within the architecture, engineering, or construction firm. So please be on a lookout for that. Like I said, it should be coming very soon, hopefully within the next couple days. So what this means is updates to what we're calling our bundle, which is Ideate Explorer, Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Sticky, and Ideate Style Manager, and Ideate Apps. So those 5 solutions are add-in solutions to Revit. So they run inside of Revit, right? And then our latest solution is called Ideate Automation, and that will also be updated in this release. And with Ideate Automation, because of the way it works, and we want to be supporting sort of previous releases of Revit, so we're actually going back to 2020 through 2025 for this release. So Ideate Automation is a little bit different than the other applications because it's going to encompass a few more releases of Revit. Okay, let's start out with Ideate Explorer. So Ideate Explorer is our model browser, allowing you to review every single element within the Revit model and be able to select on elements by family, category, type, maybe even by the work set that it belongs to, or the level, many different ways that you can review that. So in fact, with Ideate Explorer, we've basically completely rewritten the application. We sort of tore apart the guts, if you will, and rewrote it on sort of a different foundational platform. But what this allowed us to do is basically give support for high resolution monitors. So if you're running a very high resolution, you should be able to now see the checkboxes and just the wording and the text much easier, right? And the element tree that you're using within Ideate Explorer is retained when you're doing modifications or manipulations. Before, if you actually edited the selection, then it would sort of collapse, but now that remains open. And then I'm going to talk about the other things, the info pane and the Revit filters here in just a second. So we've added a new selection filter. This selection filter has been available on one of our other applications called Ideate Annotate, which is within Ideate Apps. So you may be somewhat familiar with it, and I'm going to point it out when we talk about the Ideate Apps updates as well. But what this allows you to do is basically choose a dynamic filter. So it's a filter that you basically defined within Ideate Explorer, and then you decide that you want to choose just the elements within the canvas that are based on that filter. So an example that I'm going to be using is in-place families. And so you can basically set the filter to only in-place families, and then you can, in the canvas, do a box select, and it's only going to pick up in-place families and not everything else. So this speeds up your selection greatly. And then in addition to that filter, you now have with each individual category, so when we're sorting by category, family, and type, you can go to the top level category, right click, and select by category. And so for instance, like in this case, the plumbing fixtures, if you right click, say select category, now in the canvas, if you do a box select, it's only going to pick up plumbing fixtures. So let's take a look at this. So I'm going to start Ideate Explorer, right? And you may see it has sort of a different look and feel. Of course, it's familiar to you, but you'll just notice the tabs, I think, are a little bit clearer. We've changed some of you'll see the Explore, the Navigate, and the Warnings tab. So what I'm doing here is I'm switching back between the actual view and the entire project, and then I'm going to search on an element for doors. So you see now all the doors that either match, like it has door within the family, or maybe there's a door within the piece of text. Now I'm going to click to the right of the check mark, and that gives me the additional info pane. So notice that I can select, and I don't even need to say, well, actually hit the checkbox. I can just select on the element itself, and it's going to give me the info pane. If I want to clear that info pane, I can come back to the very top level and clear the pane. So this is giving me additional details. Again, this was available in Ideate Annotate, but it wasn't available in Ideate Explorer. So now it is, where you can go and review that information. Now the filters. Notice that the filters are only showing you those dynamic filters from Ideate Explorer. So what we've done is we've hidden the Revit filters. But however, you can turn them back on again. So I'm just showing you in the settings, you can turn on and off the filters. But by default, the Revit filters are off. So this is going to give you a much smaller list. And then here I can specify in place. And here's where I'm using that nice little filter where I'm saying, all right, it's in place. I'm going to do a box select. And now I'm only grabbing in place families. So in this case, the library and the fridge. So, when I want to select items from the canvas, I can filter that out very easily. So you see I've got, built-in filters there. And then once I select the filter, I can go over to that sort of filter selection, if you will, and then select within the canvas. So I can also do a right click, as you see there, select by category, and now it's only going to pick door categories. So there you see, and again, if I'm clicking to the right of the checkbox, I get the info pane of additional information on that specific element, right? So now I was able to quickly select only doors by using that right click, select category. Then I said, oh, I'm going to go over to the canvas and I'm going to do a box select and just then select the doors within the canvas that I wanted, as opposed to the entire project. So giving you that, kind of a combination of using the filter tool within Ideate Explorer and the filter selection tool, allowing you to basically select the filter in the dialog and then go to the canvas and say, I only want to select elements in the canvas that match that Ideate software filter. In addition, to Ideate Explorer, with Ideate Query, we've added additional information for the hosted elements. So a good example here is you see that I'm looking at air terminals, right? And the air terminal is hosted, in this case, by either a ceiling or a wall. And you can see the category, whether it's a wall or a ceiling. You can also see now information about that host element, such as the fire rating, the width, the thickness. So this information is now available for you to make better decisions. And so like in this case, again, we're looking for quality control for hosted elements. So both Ideate Explorer and Ideate BIM Link now have additional information on both these hosted elements, whether they're within the actual parent model or if they're in the let's say a linked model. And so speaking of Ideate BIM Link, basically Ideate BIM Link and Ideate Explorer share kind of a foundational level, if you will. So when we add a parameter to Ideate Explorer with our Ideate query, being able to search on that, then that's also available for Ideate BIM Link. So the same information is available now within Ideate BIM Link. We've added information to our QC, our quality control library. So everything under QC, tags, tagged element, it now includes the tagged element, the name, and other properties. So you see there, my example is I'm using tagged element RVT link, tagged element name, family name, type name, and so forth. So again, it's just giving you additional information that you might want to extract from the Revit model. And then speaking of additional information, we've added additional view properties for the view range. So we had before, I believe we had view range, it might have been cut plane, there was just several of them, but now we have bottom level, cut plane, top level, top offset, basically all the different sort of parameters that you could have. And then we've created a new link definition in our library called QC-views range. So if you go to the BIM link library, you call up QC-views range, you'll get all of these properties. And then a while back, we enabled Ideate BIM link within the family editor, and we have specific library link definitions that are for use when you're editing or reviewing information in Revit families. So now we've added the ability to review text. So there is now a text underbar RFA sample link definition that now can review the generic annotation family and has, well, actually any family, but that has a lot of text to manage. So you see there, you can edit the text notes within RFA files. Also, with Ideate BIM Link, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this with Ideate Automation as well, because these kind of overlap, is we've done quite a few improvements to the performance. And so one of those things is with our HC view, which is health check. So again, in the Ideate BIM Link library, I mentioned before we had QC, there's a whole library for quality control. There's a whole library called HC for health check. And now the health check, the filters have been modified when you're doing the health check to only export information that we're basically reviewing within the health check Excel spreadsheet that we provide with Ideate Automation. So this is going to increase the performance because what was happening is HC Ideate was exporting basically everything in the model, whether we were using it or not. So now we're just specifying, for instance, group information or whether it's in-place information, because those are the things that we're concerned about. And then speaking of the health check, we've added a new health check library link called HC Sheets, which again is used in conjunction with the Ideate Automation and the health check, where it's before it was using Ideate Annotate to get a list of the sheets and the issues on the sheet. Now we have this separate HC Sheets that should be much quicker. And also you can use it for other elements or other sort of review rather than just the issues on the sheet, for instance, with Ideate Annotate. So again, it depends what your KPI metrics are. I'm going to just pause here. I'm going to look at the questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, there's a couple questions on Style Manager. I can get to that after the presentation. Okay, so so one person made a very good point, and I do have a limited time. They're saying that, well, what if you're not familiar with Ideate Software Solutions? So, again, we have the 5 applications that are running inside of Revit. Ideate BIM Link, what I'm talking about right now, is our solution allowing you to export information from the Revit model, send it to Excel, and be able to make changes and manipulations or you could report on it. For instance, the HC health check, a lot of times that's just reporting on information within the Revit model. But if you want to make changes, then you can then quickly import that back in using Ideate BIM link to make updates. So the first solution I talked about was Ideate Explorer, which is sort of your model browser of all the information within your Revit model. The second solution here is Ideate BIM link, allowing you to manipulate and manage all the data within your Revit project. So thank you for calling that out and letting me know that I should explain all of the solutions here. Okay, our next solution is Ideate Apps. Ideate Apps is a collection of 10 productivity tools for all Revit users. So that is, there are sheet and view tools, there are renumber tools, there are tools helping you explain why something doesn't display in a specific view. So again, all these great tools make up this one product called Ideate Apps. So we've done a lot of work in this particular release with our sheet and view tools, as well as Ideate Annotate. Ideate Annotate allows you to review all 2D annotation and be able to see if there are clashes between, let's say, your tags and your dimensions, as an example, and then be able to flag that so that you can fix that. It can also do intelligent tagging. So instead of saying, I want to tag all not tagged, every room in my project, I actually want to only tag rooms that are over 700 square feet. And I want to tag those rooms with a different room tag because they're larger. And so it gives me the ability to do that. And I can now, or with Ideate Annotate, I can use that to align and distribute text within a detail view or within a plan view. So we've added some additional information to our align and distribute within Ideate Annotate. So let's take a look at that. So if I bring up Ideate Annotate, which is part of the Ideate Apps collection, right? I can come over here and I can select my filter, align and distribute. Hey, does this look familiar? It's now incorporated into Ideate Explorer that I showed earlier. Now I'm going to select only those elements that can be aligned and distributed, and I'm going to distribute them vertically. This has been available in Ideate Apps for, like I said, a couple releases. The new thing that we're adding is the ability to set a vertical spacing. So I'm going to set a 1/2 inch, and then I can, instead of doing distribute horizontally or vertically, I can say distribute top down or bottom up. So now these are exactly a 1/2 inch apart. Notice that one of the texts, the steel plate stringer, is actually aligned to the right within the text box itself. So now we've added the ability to not only align the text, but align the text within the text box. So now if I zoom up, you see that steel plate stringer is now left aligned within the text box because it was actually right aligned within the text box previously. So that little feature allowing you to, and it's on by default, allowing you to align the text within the text box to the same settings that you're aligning the text on the, I guess that would be sort of exterior of using the bounding box of the text. So nice feature. That was one that was asked by a customer of ours, and we were able to incorporate that quite easily. So new updates to Ideate Annotate when it comes to align and distribute. And again, those of you that have been using the align and distribute, or let's say using Ideate Annotate in general, right, should be familiar with the filter and that little selection, the selection filter, allowing you to select elements within the canvas that match the filter that you've defined. So now that's being enhanced with Ideate Explorer. And so now that same sort of functionality is available as you saw earlier within Ideate Explorer. So we're trying to make our tools very consistent. Okay, this is another nice little feature that I don't have a slide for, but I really like it. You may be familiar with our Ideate Align. Align allows you to align viewports across multiple sheets. So in this case, I have a second floor and a third floor. I'm going to move the second floor plan and this elevation, and I'm also going to move the title on the viewport. So I'm going to move it above the viewport. So when I do that, notice that it's no longer aligned with A156, right? So that's why I'm switching back and forth here, showing you that it's no longer aligned. So now I'm going to use our Ideate Align tool. And some new features that we've added is giving you the ability to review. We've always been able to assign the scope box, but now it's actually telling you the name of the scope box. And I can match the view title position. This was available previously for plan views only, but now it's every view. So it doesn't matter whether it's an elevation, section, detail. So we changed that to match view title position. It used to be match plan view. So here I'm doing it for both the plan and the elevation, right? Once I align both of them, now I'm going to switch back and show you that on now A156 has the view title on the top for both, and they've been moved over accordingly to match the alignment. So I really like that because I know several customers have asked me about that, if it's available for elevation or section or detail views. And again, previously it was only plan view, and now we've made it available for all views. And then a number of new features for Ideate View Creator. View Creator is part of our Ideate apps collection, allowing you to several methods for creating views. As you see there, views to levels, you can duplicate views, you can apply dependents. We have a room views method that you select on the room, and it will create the 4 elevations, an enlarged floor plan, an enlarged reflected ceiling plan, a 3D view, and a schedule. But all of these basically started with a template, meaning that you had to have an existing view in order to either duplicate or select from as sort of your basis, right? And now we've implemented this create from scratch method. And so the problem is that we weren't able to, if you didn't have a view, then how do you create it? Now we're able to create that, and at the same time be able to create the sheets. Again, going back to my room views, if those of you that have selected or gone through the room views method, you'll notice that you select the room, you basically say, I want to create these views. It does all that, and then finally it asks you, do you want to create the sheet? And actually, do you want to clone a sheet? Do you want to create a new sheet? What's the title block? Well, now that ending piece of the room views is available for every view creation within Ideate Apps View Creator. We also have implemented a new feature in Sheet Manager called Renumber Down, and it's basically allowing you to select on a sheet, and then whatever sheet you select on, like in this case A102 that's highlighted there in yellow, and then say renumber down, the next one will be 3, 4, 5. So it's renumbering those all in sequence. So if you wanted to insert a new sheet let's say you could go to, if you already have an A103, you wanted to have an A104 and insert that, you could go to A104, say renumber down, it'll start with A105 and so forth. I've got an example of that coming up. So let's take a look at this. Again, Ideate Apps Collection. You're going to go to Ideate View Creator. All right. And here are the methods available. Before was views to levels, duplicate views, apply dependents, room views. Now we have this new one called create from scratch. So here it says, well, what kind of view do you want? A floor plan view, elevation view. I want a floor plan. I can now select to apply a view template to that view. And this is important because the view template will basically set the scale and the detail level. And so I have one here called complete views. And I'm going to create a new views for levels 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you can also apply a scope box at the same time. That's an option. So I'm going to go ahead and apply a scope box called complete views. And so again, those of you that are familiar with our room views or even apply dependents or other methods, you'll notice that it always gives me a preview of the views before it creates the views. In this case, I can select that I want to find the word overall and change it to complete. And then I could add a prefix or a suffix if I want, but now I have these 4 views. I'm going to go ahead and create them. So here's where now it's asking me to create the sheet after I create the views. So I can choose a title block, and I'm going to choose a title block that has the Ideate Apps logo on it. You can also clone a sheet, that's possible. And then I can specify that since there are 4 views on each one for a sheet, I'm going to start on sheet A160 and create that. So now select create, and it's going to then create the 4 sheets that have the individual now floor plans that I just created. So there's the L2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to say OK. And then there you see in the, the background, it's got L2 architecture plan. I'm going to go to the sheet manager, and you can see that there's L2, L3, L4, L5 that just got created. Now, you'll also notice that there's a big gap in my sequence. I go from A112, I jump to A160. So I'm going to select all the sheets that are plan sheets only. So in this case, this goes from A100 to A163. I'm going to rename them. And here's where there's that new feature called renumber down. I'm just going to select the first one, right click, and say renumber down. And then that's going to renumber all the sheets in sequence. The little triangle warning is just basically telling me that there was already a sheet named that, but I'm going to rename, or I'm going to update the sheets. So now you see there I've got an A101 all the way down to A117, and they're all in sequence. So if I did want to insert a new sheet, I could do that, and then maybe like go to A104 and then renumber down again, and then it will update the sequence. So a nice feature quickly to be able to renumber the sheets in a sequence without having to use our renumber command, which you could, of course, do with our Ideate renumber, which is part of the Ideate Apps collection. And speaking of Ideate renumber, yeah, as I mentioned with Ideate Annotate, one of my examples that I use in presentations is being able to tag all rooms, but then apply a filter basically and saying, oh, you know what? I don't want to just tag all rooms. I want to tag only rooms that are over a particular square footage. Or you might want to say, oh, I want to tag cabinetry or casework. I only want the upper casework or the lower casework with a different tag, for instance, or a different positioning for that tag. That's all possible with our Ideate Annotate. But we've added the feature, the filter feature, to Ideate renumber. And what this allows me to do is select elements for renumbering, but then filter them maybe on phase or group, so that all doors that are inside a model group, for instance, may be filtered out. So in my example here, and it may not be the most relevant example, but I thought, well, it's since I'm using the example of square footage, why not go ahead and do that? So I'm going to go to Ideate renumber, and I'm going to say, you know what, I want to tag or renumber rooms with a new feature that only those rooms that are over 700 square feet are going to get like a new prefix called 3L. So here's where I would go now to my new filter. I would say I want the area. And you see there the condition is, equal to, not equal to, less than. I'm going to say is greater than 700, and our units are square footage. And so then I'm going to say, well, for those that are over 700 square foot, I'm going to do an L for that they're large rooms. So I want to basically renumber them starting with 0, and then I'm going to pick draw a new path vertex. So I'm going to select on every room because I don't really know which ones are over 700 square foot. So I'm going to, let the computer or let the program figure that out. So I'm going to select on every room, even the corridor, right? And go over to that vestibule, which I know is probably pretty small, and select that and say, okay, now renumber. But it's not going to renumber all of the rooms. It only renumbers those that match my criteria, my filter criteria, which are over 700 square feet. So there's that. If I go to the office unit, 3L00, the studio unit, it skipped over that because it was smaller. The live work unit is 3L00, live work unit 3L02, and so forth. So again, this gives me the ability to, bypass particular elements for renumbering that may not match my filtering criteria. And maybe, like I said, we have some filter rules that are built in that are actually with the word filter, and there's one for doors filtered, and what that does is basically ignore any doors within a model group, as an example. And then our Ideate X-ray, we check over 55 different reasons why something's not visible in a particular view. So if you're trying to figure out something with Ideate X-ray, it's checking that. We've just added some new checks that customers have told us about when it comes to sort of the depth queuing and why something doesn't display in a particular view. So we've added 3 additional checks. All right, before I get to automation, I want to see, I'm going to go over here and look at my questions here. Someone had asked, can you filter by instance and type parameters? Yes, that's going to show you, that's Tom asked that great question. So yes, you can specify, let's say, a particular parameter that could be either instance, so it could be a shared parameter as an example. I'm just thinking of like for a door, it may be, I don't know, a door hardware might be the instance, right? And you want to filter by that. Or if you're looking at, let's say, type information, it might be the width of the door, right? And you could filter on that as well. And let me see some. Actually, Bonnie has a good one. Is there a way to get the leader lines to have the same angle? Yes, we actually are working on that. If I go over here to Ideate Annotate, let me get a cafe kitchen plan here. And I'm going to go to Annotate. And I'm going to bring that up. And the reason I'm going to do this is because there is a setting here. When we go to Browse and we look at, again, what I set up, remember my Align and Distribute. And if I come over here and say Settings, we do have a leader elbow where we say None, Offset, or Middle. That's right now what Autodesk is giving us control. We are working on seeing if we can line up the elbow better. So that is something that may be like a future enhancement. But for right now, we can say middle or offset for this particular, elbow leader line condition. So that may be something you want to explore there. But that's a good question, Bonnie. And Rob said, can I swap system type parameters on pipe instances? And basically, you can swap using Ideate BIM Link. You can swap components. Like I could say, oh, all these are framing members, or all of these pipes that are 3-inch pipes. I want to swap with a 2-inch pipe as an example using Ideate BIM Link. But we're not really swapping parameters per se. It's the actual elements that you're swapping, right? So BIM Link gives you access to those parameters, but the actual element swap is going to be like, I want to swap one family from another family. Like I want to have all 3-foot wooden doors now be 3-foot aluminum doors. I can do those types of swaps. Oh, so Matt asked a good question about when I'm renumbering. If I go over here to the renumber door, and let's say I just wanted to renumber like I did earlier, right? And I want to do rooms as an example. So let's select on rooms and say that I want this to be 3, and I'll do a dash and then say 0, 0. His question was, all right, this create new path. When you select that, it allows me to draw a 2D line. So when I say select path by vertex, start numbering, this is just a 2D line, a drafting or detail line. There's nothing special about it. And so the question he asked was, well, will it print? Yes, or you can turn it off, or you can decide that maybe this is a working view as an example. That's what I typically recommend, is you have a sort of a presentation view, and then this would be your working view. And so once I'm done, you notice that then, oops, I want to come back over here, sorry. Here, let me hit the escape. and I want to select that line again. So again, it's just a 2D line, right? So if I wanted to select and say now, select path vertex, and I want to do rooms again, and this time I'll do just, let's say 400, 00, and I'll do a dash again. So I'm just changing them to the 400 sequence. Now I don't create the path. I just say select path. Now I'm going to pick the line, and then it changes all the 300s to 400s as an example. And then that line, if I say accept the changes, is just a 2D detail line. So if I wanted to keep going, I could say, create similar, and then just keep drawing it or modify the line. So it's just, I guess, to answer your question, it's a 2D detail line that could be either hidden in the view or it could be in a working view while you're working with Ideate Renumber. Okay, great questions. All right, so now I want to get back to Ideate automation. So I went over the improvements to primarily Ideate BIMlink, Ideate Explorer, and Ideate Apps. And for our other two software solutions, Ideate Sticky and Ideate Style Manager, we are mainly aligning them to Revit 2025. So there's some maybe minor bug fixes, but there are no new feature enhancements for those two applications. But of course, they'll be available for 2025. Now with Ideate Automation, what we've done is we've done a lot of work giving you better feedback. So what was happening is, you would run an Ideate Automation task, and Ideate Automation allows you to script a particular task, such as, oh, I would like to create PDFs, export PDFs from my Revit model at 2 in the morning. And I've got maybe 5 models, and I've got, this view set that I want to create for the PDFs. And then it would just, maybe it would give you an error and you wouldn't know why. So now we're giving you a lot more feedback as to specifically why it failed. Maybe the file didn't exist anymore, or you specified a view set that didn't exist, or that was spelled wrong, or something like that. So now, like in this case, for IFC, you're using a JSON file. It's saying that the file does not exist. And what it's going to do is when you go to the log, you're going to right click and say show more details. It opens up a log viewer and it's going to highlight the line within the log where the error occurs. So we really hope that this is going to give you a lot more feedback when you're using Ideate Automation tasks. And then when you're using Ideate or BIM 360 or the Autodesk Construction Cloud, we had this folder refresh, but it was basically refreshing all folders. Now you can specify that, okay, under your model directory or your path, you might have a directory called archived or consumed models, and you don't want to update those. So it can bypass those, and I've got an example of that. And then for all of our tasks, we had this available for some tasks, which is you can specify a work set condition, like all work sets open or closed, or specific work sets. Now we've added that to every specific task. So let's take a look at some of these enhancements here. So when you first start Ideate Automation, these are all of the completed tasks. In the past, we had this sort of welcome screen, but now that's sort of hidden by default. Also, in the past, we had this little plus sign for additional options. It was hard to see. Now we've actually renamed it additional options. So when I toggle that back and forth, you can see the options that are available. In addition, I can now schedule tasks directly. But first, in the previous version, I had to run the task and then I could schedule it. But now I can schedule it right away. So now here's where you get the feedback where it says completed with errors. Right below it says, oh, what's the problem? Well, the JSON file wasn't available. Then I can go and say show more additional details, and it's going to open up the log and it's going to show me exactly the problem that I can fix. Also, if you're running on multiple models, it's going to show you which model had the problem. So if you run a PDF export on 10 models and only one of them had a problem, it's going to show you the one that had the problem. Also, if a task is missed because the computer has been turned off, we can run if the computer is in sleep mode, we can wake up the computer and run at 2 in the morning. But if the computer is shut off, it's going to be a missed task, and now we're telling you that. Again, here is the refresh file list where I can specify specific folders to exclude, like the archive folder or consumed. I can use wildcards, so like all folders that are archive, that start with archive, are going to be basically ignored. So this should make it faster when you want to go and refresh your Autodesk Construction Cloud folders for use with Ideate Automation. Like I said, all work sets, or this option to open models with all work sets closed or open, has been available, or is now available for every task. You can specify a work set by using the wildcard, like asterisk.link and so forth. So again, just makes it much easier. You can now open multiple models as opposed to just one. So the performance here is really nice. Like you might have a task, and before it was actually, if you had 2 PDF export tasks, it would open up the model, export it, then it would close the model. Then it would like open up the model again, export the information, and close the model. And so we were asked by a lot of people to be able to keep the model open and then do multiple items. And so that's what we're doing here. And again, I already mentioned that with the health check, where we've increased performance, where in the health check with Ideate BIM link, we're only extracting the information that is specifically needed for the health check information. Also, with other scripts, you can close specific work sets, like in this case, to increase performance. You can also open up the model as detached, and that's what we're doing by default. So when we open up a model for PDF export or for NWC or for AutoCAD DWG export, we're now by default within the script opening the model as detached, so it's not impacting other workflow. Because what was sometimes happening is we're opening up the central model and then it wasn't like completely synced or updated by the team. And so we were getting some errors that way. So this should resolve some of those errors when you're opening the model as detached. And then, like I said, depending on what you're doing, you could open the model with all work sets closed, or you can specify the individual work sets. For instance, like you saw, with a wildcard search, like all work sets that start with asterisk.link are going to be closed on the model open when you're running this particular task from Ideate Automation. Okay, so I know, and again, the focus of this session for the 45 minutes was really on new features. So I apologize if we didn't go over like all of the, the individual sort of workflows from Ideate Software Solutions. There are a number of resources on our website that do explain what each specific product does, right? Or each application within Revit, as well as our Ideate Automation. And I would encourage you to review that information on our website. Like I said, the focus of this webinar was really just on new features that we are going to be releasing very soon, in the next couple days, and updates for Ideate Explorer, Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Sticky, Ideate Style Manager, and Ideate Apps that run inside of Revit, and then updates to our Ideate Automation, which is our scripting solution allowing you to run specific tasks that, like I said, exporting PDFs or AutoCAD files, that you can run those or schedule those to run, for instance, at 2 a.m. in the morning overnight. So with that being said, we are going to be releasing a very short video called What's New for Ideate Software Solutions for the June 2024 release. So please look for that on our website and YouTube channel. We're also going to be releasing a What's New in Ideate Automation. I know I went through it very quickly, but there will be a specific video on What's New in Ideate Automation for the June 2024 release, as well as, because there was so much so many updates to Ideate View Creator, we have a special video also coming out called Creating Views and Sheets at the Beginning of the Project. So this is using the create from scratch method in Ideate View Creator. So again, a specific video that just focuses on those features. So we have 3 videos that will be coming out very soon in addition to this webinar. And the information on this webinar will be basically repeated for the UK and Europe timeframe on July 9th. So if you are interested, you can go to our website. You can sign up for the webinar. That's the time frame is much, or the time zone is much more specific for the UK and Europe, and that's on July 9th. And so as you see at the very top here, there's a very short survey. Please fill out that survey. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us focus these presentations. It's only a few questions. So when the webinar ends, you'll be presented with that survey. So another really great tip, and these are all live right now, is all of our applications online have a what's new topic. So you see there, major improvements to Ideate Apps, Explorer, Ideate BIM Link, Ideate Automation, and then really support for 2025 and minor fixes for Style Manager and Sticky. I'm going to select on one of these. You can go to our help pages, right? And under help for each of our solutions, you will see, under getting started, there's a what's new. And see here, June 2024 updates coming soon. And basically everything I talked about today with Ideate Apps, new workflows from Ideate View Creator, making room from sheets. Oh, I forgot about if I didn't mention it, the right-click select category was available in Ideate Quick Select as well as Ideate Explorer. And again, goes through each one of these, like I talked about the alignment features, the improvements and fixes. So it goes into a little bit more depth. But each one of these, like as an example, if you decide to come over here to Ideate BIM Link, getting started, what's new? Click on the what's new, and it's going to go through. It says coming soon. Again, new view management, new quality control, very detailed information on what's new for each of the 6 applications from Ideate Software. So just wanted to be able to point that out, that these are all, like I said, live on the website right now if you wanted to go kind of preview and review that information before the software is shipped. So again, if you have any questions, you can always review information on our Ideate Software website. For support, if something's not working the way you intended or if it's confusing, please send an email to support@ideatesoftware.com and we'll open up a case and we'll get back to you on that. Any pricing information, you can send an email to sales@ideatesoftware.com, and for pricing, subscription, bundles, the configurations, all those kinds of things, the sales team can help you out with that. So when it becomes available, you will get an email letting you know that, but you can also go to each individual application. You can say check for updates, and it will tell you what your currently installed version is, as well as what the version is on the website. So right now, we haven't updated the website, but we will be doing that within the next couple days. So I'm going to just see if there are any questions here. It looks like most of them actually have been answered, but the specific ones on Ideate Automation, I'll get back to you within the information from the question that you asked. Basically, it's probably easier on an individual basis to answer some of these questions. So I want to thank you very much for your time and attention. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your interest in Ideate Software. And again, when I close the webinar, please fill out the survey. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a fantastic day.